episode 8 of the Habemus Podcast, a show where we watch HBO's The Young Pope and then we talk about it. My name, of course, is Tristan D'Amours, and alongside me today, as always, is friend and colleague Milo Rahajason. What's up, man?
Not much. Played catch this morning, and it's always good to do a little exercise in the morning.
Your voice is better.
My voice has recovered, yes. I don't sound as sexy and raspy as I did just even 2 days ago, but I definitely feel better.
2 weeks ago.
Oh, right. Yeah, okay. Yeah. That's true. Damn.
You don't have your colleague Bill Simmons' voice anymore.
No. Oh, man. I was listening to myself this morning. Oh, I sounded so good even 2 days ago.
You did sound pretty good. This week we have guest viewers for the first time in the history of this episode of this podcast. Yeah. Two of which I'm very excited about, both for very different reasons. The first is because he's been on all but the Scrum, and that's one of my favorite people in the world. My former editor-in-chief when we were at The Link, and he said to call me barista. So barista Jonathan Caragay Cook, what's up, man?
Hey, what's up? Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you were on the second episode of my first ever podcast, and then you were... What other podcast were you? You were on the Third Kit, which was a soccer show I had.
That's it.
And then you're gonna be 3 for 4. Now you just have to do sports media news to be on the Scrum.
Yeah, I'm honored to be on this podcast.
And the other person that I'm really glad we have on is just because he's finally on one of my podcasts, and I can only introduce him as my brother. He's also a culinary student. Actually, he's not a culinary student because he graduated. He's now very much in the culinary industry. Frederick D'Amours, aka Fred. What's up, Fred?
I'm good, and you?
I'm super good. I'm super good. I can't wait to hear you talk on this podcast.
I'm really glad to be here.
It's going to be really cool.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know the concept of the show, why start at episode 8? But if you're just that dumb, Harrison, would you care explaining the basis of the show?
Yeah, sure. So, we invite guests on, and we watch an episode and we ask 3 questions. So, what is your highlight, your low light, and your cherry Coke Zero? Character of the episode. We're not sponsored, but it'd be cool if we were. That's pretty much it. So some of the guests, one of the guests had seen the entire series, and the majority of the other guests haven't. It's HBO, it's to be expected, but it makes it more fun if you kind of just come in the middle of the series.
Exactly. So both of you have not watched the show before. But what we usually do before we head into the segments is ask if they actually liked the episode. So, John, Fred, did you like episode 8 of The Young Pope?
Yes. I thought it was interesting. I don't think it was good, but I liked it.
You liked it, but you didn't think it was... That's a perfectly good answer.
Yeah.
Fred?
I liked it. Made me want to watch the series. So.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
But
that's.
I agree with John. It's a good episode, but it's not so good. I would watch it for the capturing, and not for the series.
All right. That's a very fair answer. So let's start. Without further ado, let's break into the first segment of this show, the highlight portion. So we usually go. We should have made a coin toss before because
we can alternate.
We can all.
One star.
Okay, that's fair. We usually have our guest viewer start with their highlight. Let's go family first. Fred, what was your highlight of the episode?
I think it's the flashback that I love. The highlight of the series, the episode is the flashback, because I didn't understand, never seen the show, so it was great to not knowing what's happening and just try to understand. So yeah, pretty much.
That was your highlight?
Yep.
John, was there something in the episode that you liked?
Honestly, the whole episode was so out there, and I wasn't expecting it to be like that everything was a highlight to me. But if I had to choose one, it's probably when the Pope met his favorite author the American writer, and the American writer fit the stereotype of being obsessed about sex, and that is the basis of all his work. And he just went out there and was like, straight up asked the Pope, like, how do you deal with not having women? Which I thought was really blunt and very funny representation of a writer, quote unquote. So yeah, I think that was probably the highlight. But having said that, the whole episode was like, every scene was kind of out there, so it's hard to pick.
It totally was. One of the weirder episodes, Harrison.
Yeah.
Your highlights.
So I have a few things written down, but I'm gonna go with the gas station scene at the end, where he says,
that was something.
Where he says we have to deal with Sister Antonia, and then it cuts to Sister Antonia back in Africa, and she dies. She just dies. She's going to drink the water, we find out she's stealing in and she's only giving to people in exchange for sexual favors, which is fucked up.
Oh, that's fucked.
And then just as he's there praying in some gas station in Naples, she just dies, and that was great.
Like, just like sidebar to that, I really liked, like, she was going to this girl, I think Maria, I'm assuming, because she kept like, Maria.
But also like,
and then like she gets to like the edge of her bed and she just like goes away. She just fucks off. Yeah, whatever.
Also because we learned that Sister it was the Juana Fernandez who.
That was weird,
but she's the one who always like referred to the Virgin Mary as like, as her savior, as her religious inspiration. But it also, you could maybe, because the fact that she's like crying out for Maria, the person's name happened to be Maria, but also there is probably some religious symbolism to that I don't know because I'm not Catholic, but yeah, there you go.
I mean, none of us here are good Catholics, to be honest. But that's not necessarily why we're doing this show.
No.
We're just watching this show.
If anything, it's the opposite.
For the fuck of it, clearly. My highlight was just how beautiful the pool praying scene was.
Oh yeah.
I really like that. Kind of captured me. Like it just seeing Jude Law in the shallow. Well, not in the shallow, but in the deep end of the pool, and it's just like the camera is like panning around him. Yeah. It's like, I would really like to know how much money they spent on just camera equipment and film, like just the sheer like it's beautifully shot. Like I feel like everybody here, at least in every episode, like acknowledged like there were some really beautiful shots.
Oh, yeah.
And like that was one of the pretty ones in this episode.
And that scene lasts like 3 or 4 minutes, like just in the pool, just like
it's a long one, and then like he kind of exits the pool and it like pans out, and it's really pretty.
And he's like, I'm so tired.
Man, like he must have said I'm so tired like 10 times.
And we know he's at his vacation house, and then he's like there, sunbathing with sunglasses on by a pool. Someone's like, "Hey, what's up, Pope?" And he's like, "I'm so tired."
What's up, Pope?
Takes a drag from a cigarette. I'm so tired.
That was.
Yeah, that performance under the water, that was like David Blaine levels of holding your breath. Like.
For that long? Yeah, that's crazy.
I thought with the way it was shot, I thought he was a lot deeper, and I was like, damn, like how is he like staying down there so peacefully? But then he like rose up and it was like maybe a few inches. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But it was cool. Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah. I mean, like, no bubbles too. Like
there's two bubbles.
Two bubbles,
two
like
bubbles.
right at the end.
Yeah, right at the end.
Which like, I could give that to him.
Yeah,
like you could get. Yeah, you gotta give it to him.
Good acting.
Good underwater acting by Jude Law.
Underwater actor.
That you should add that to a CV. Just underwater actor.
A new Oscar category.
Can hold my breath for like more than 2 minutes. Man, more than 2 minutes. That's impressive.
Yeah. Although this scene might have like the whole, because it was in slow motion, so it might have just been shot like very quickly, and then we just slowed it down.
Why are you ruining the magic?
Hey man, I'm sorry.
Why?
I'm sorry. Nothing.
All right. So with that disappointment, we're gonna take our first break of the show, and then we're gonna come back with our low light segment.
Hi, I'm Tefera Jemian, one of the hosts of Yeah, a podcast on the Upford Network. We're talking about young adult literature, reviewing new releases, revisiting old classics, and exploring what the YA genre can teach us at any age. Join me and my co-host Hannah Bailey as we talk about friendships, dating, family relationships, sexuality, experiences of queerness, body politics, and more through the lens of our favorite YA novels as well as books we're just discovering. The Yeah Podcast, available through the Upford Network and on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and wherever else you find your podcasts. This is our book club, and you're invited.
And we're back here on episode 8. Tristan, Harrison, Fred, and John. And John, what was your low light of this episode? There were a couple in my mind, but there's, yeah.
I have 1.5. An overall low light was Jude Law's accent. He totally just sounded like Jude Law, slightly Americanized, but it just sounded like he was trying to hide his British accent, rather than he was playing a character that was American, especially from New Jersey. Anyway,
for context, John is from New Jersey.
But it does come out at times, though. There are some moments where he has that little thing.
I mean, it sounds like a weird hybrid British American. He's supposed to be playing the specific.
Yeah.
To me, it just sounds like a weird, Jude Law's putting on a weird voice. It doesn't sound like he's a different person. Anyway, that's a small thing. My actual low light scene was his first public appearance, which he didn't actually publicly appear at.
In Venice?
Yeah, no, in Africa.
Oh,
in the African country, whatever.
Yeah, the nondescript African country.
Yeah, he didn't actually. He wasn't actually in front of them, right?
So he was hidden somehow because he doesn't want to be seen. So he was somehow hidden.
Okay, yeah, that scene I thought, and overall the whole episode, I felt like that scene was the culmination of how weird the episode was, because I totally got what they were trying to do. It was this weird satirical criticism on how the church has been part of the exploitation of Africa for centuries, and yeah, it was just and it's I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to make a point, and they're trying to frame this new pope as trying to be different and acknowledging the harms that he has done, I guess. But at the same time, I didn't like how there was not one single black person that had any significant line in the whole episode. It was just, they were all just kind of props to make this point, and maybe that was also part of the point. It's African people have never actually had a platform or voice to actually speak on these issues, so maybe, I don't know, maybe they were going super deep and trying to show how far deep Africa's been affected by the Christian church or the Catholic Church. But I don't know, it was unsettling. It was just kind of weird. They were just what's the word for background actors?
They were extras.
They were just extras. And it's just I don't know. I felt uncomfortable watching them being used as extras just to make this point, which ultimately made, I wasn't sure if they're, I don't know. I'm very conflicted on it. I'm curious to see what you guys think.
That's an interesting point, because and that's very interesting coming from someone who hasn't seen the episodes before, and then you kind of tried to actually Jude Law's character Pius the 13th is actually the most conservative pope ever.
He's dangerous.
He's dangerously conservative.
Yeah, really.
So it was interesting to see you say something like this, but bouncing off of what you just said, it's interesting that, of course, the show's incredibly white.
Oh yeah.
Because the Vatican is incredibly white.
Yeah. And
there's one scene, I think in episode 1, where some cardinals are talking, and then an African cardinal is he's objecting to a point, and then one of the cardinals are oh yeah, but you Africans have such a different mentality.
He says something oh well he says you Africans are so naive or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that they kind of continue on that thing of this.
I also really.
Also, I'm not sure an African actor actually spoke.
No, I don't think
not at all.
No.
They even had that joke where he was in confession and he's
You don't speak
yeah,
English.
you do not speak English, and
But the message was in English. That's my low light. Like,
Yeah.
I don't understand. The message is in English, but he don't speak English.
Well, it was probably written by someone else to give to him. But
Who?
yeah, who could it possibly be? 'Cause, like,
Just voice your complaint, Fred. Go ahead.
Because I mean, the father was like the main person who doesn't like the sister, and he was complaining about it. And I mean, nobody in this country of Africa that they were taught or were supposed to don't talk in English, know how to talk in English. So who would write the message? It wouldn't be the sisters or anyone. So I don't.
Yeah, that's an
don't kind of
interesting
understand
point.
this point.
That's an interesting point. Maybe I don't know. We'll never know.
I
Maybe.
think there's like a missing link in
Yeah.
in that episode, well, especially in the Africa scenes that like makes it not totally make sense, but we sort of fill in the gaps. We're like, okay, it's possible that with that letter about Sister Antonia, it's possible that someone else would have written that for him, but still, it's like tough to really say.
It's still very tough.
Yeah, it's tough to really
They
say.
could put more effort in this background story than like.
There, yeah.
It's just a phase of, oh yeah, he doesn't speak English, I pass you the message and go for it. You can put something else, you can be more deep in this story.
Yeah.
And that was like it could have been a very good way to include some African characters, even if they were just one off for that episode.
Yeah.
More than just like people getting beaten because they're trying to get water.
That was.
Yeah, it's like so like they're trying to make the point they're making is so obvious, but it's like almost too obvious, and like it's like poorly executed
Yeah, it is
in
too
that
obvious.
way.
It is too obvious.
Even the scene where like they convince Sister Antonia that not to take a photo with him, and then she's like showing them touring, giving them a tour of the facilities, and then she like sticks her hands out.
Oh my
And then
God.
all the black people come around and like
I
start
hate
kissing her hands, and she's like, enough is enough. And then it cuts to, or it shows Jude Law coming in front of them and just smoking a cigarette,
Yeah.
and it was just like this weird like thirds of like him,
Yeah.
them and then her, and I was just like, man, like I get what they're doing, but like it's still uncomfortable. Like,
That was
I
my
don't think
low
it's
light.
cool.
It's
That
way
that
too
specific
obvious.
scene was just very just disturbing to me, honestly.
Yeah.
Mainly because it's clearly just a setup to go like, hey, look, Mr. Pope, look your Highness or whatever the hell is
Your Holiness.
Your Holiness. There you go.
Your Highness.
Your Highness is a king. But anyways,
I think they said Your Highness at points.
but it's Your Holiness.
Your Holiness.
But I think some characters refer to him as.
Your Highness. Really?
Yeah, I was
Really?
almost positive. I was like, wait, why are they calling him?
That's weird.
But yeah,
Yeah,
regardless, it was like clearly just this like ratchet attempt at like
Yeah.
making the Pope just fall in love with this sister, which is horrible.
Yeah. The thing that I didn't like at all was like how, so like continuing with the whole Africa thing, like the country was nondescript. They did not say what the country was, and yeah, they sort of everything that was there. They don't give a name to the country, but all the things that are there. So like, you know, the African leader who's like dressed in like almost military, like a military commander, which are things that we see. Those are real things that exist in many African countries, but we're not told which one this actually is. And it's just to say like, oh yeah, we can put all these like images of what people know about Africa and make it representative of all of Africa.
Yeah,
and
like-
in people's minds, like people will make the connection. People will say, oh, it doesn't matter that I don't know which country it is, because that's how Africa looks like, so that makes sense to me, which I find really stupid.
It's because he just says I'm going to Africa.
It's
like fucking Africa is like the second biggest continent in the
There's
world
a lot
or
of
something.
there's a lot of countries in Africa, and like all of them are kind of a little bit different, or very different for that matter. And they just said, oh yeah, this is what Africa looks like. They used every stereotype that like people in the Western world will understand, and like I really don't like that.
But for me, that is the satire, and that's where I see the satire. It's like where they're trying to make it this homogenous.
Yes, exactly. That's it.
And like I think that's the point they're trying to make. And I think because the show doesn't seem to be, from watching that episode, it doesn't go. like if I wanted to like if I was like in charge of this show, I would like want to do it right and like be more specific about like where he's going and actually talk about the history of how the church is involved and the country's history and blah 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 and like how it's like leading to their exploitation. But I feel like they didn't want to go that deep, so it was easier just to make it kind of satirical, and like that was what they're trying to do. And I kind of understood that, but also didn't really like that they did that.
But I don't know.
Kind of like caught in between that.
But like about a satire, because like they you remember that scene where they're driving through the city and there's like a dead body on the ground and people are.
Yeah, that's totally satirical though. It's like totally
But
like outlandish.
is that like too serious? I feel like that's too serious to be satire.
Yeah, but
or,
you
also the
can't-
scene where
I think
they
it's just trying to like it's like playing on stereotypes of what people perceive Africa to be. Like that. I think
No,
that's
yeah.
satire. And
But-
like they're
but
trying to
it-
make the point like very obvious.
But is the word satire though? Because like it's because I feel like satire always has like a connotation of like humor in like the literal sense, or in the non-literal sense, like humor, haha. I like that, or when they're licking the water, and then there's like, a lot of these African countries have like histories of authoritarian rule, and you have these like army people that come and beat the shit out of them just for like licking this like archaic water contraption that drips 3 liters of water a day. I feel like that's too serious to be a satire.
I think it's satire in the sense it's not haha funny, but it's exaggerated and it's like completely ridiculous. And that's kind of like that's what they're trying to do. Like they make it satirical. It's not really funny, but what's kind of funny because you're just like, man, this is like so ridiculous. Like it's so silly.
Yeah.
Maybe it's funny in how transparently they're trying to make it like exaggerated.
One detail that I saw was, so this like fictional African country was clearly a black African country.
Yeah, it was like a middle of Africa.
And I don't know if like you had that same feeling, but the flag really reminded me of apartheid era South Africa.
Huh. Yeah.
The flag.
There was Dutch colors and like.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was like, wow, that like they could have used other colors for that flag.
That's a good point.
Which like that's like my like honorable mention low light.
Yeah.
It's just like, man, like you could have used any other color. But you know. Yeah. However, I mean, two of the 4 people on this podcast is somewhat colorblind, so I didn't know if you guys noticed those colors.
No, I caught it. I caught that.
I didn't caught it.
Well, I caught the Dutch thing, and I was like, that's interesting because like Holland is like was just as horrible in like the colonization of Africa as any, and especially in like that area of Africa where we can assume like where there's a desert where we can assume that this takes place. So I did pick up on that, but like. Yeah, I couldn't tell that those were the colors.
Yeah, well, yeah, so I just thought I would point that out before we take the break. Anything else in regards to lowlights, gentlemen?
There were like a lot of things in this episode that were...
Yeah, there were a lot of lowlights. That's why I was expecting a big second segment.
The night scene in the airplane where like the Pope is walking through the airplane, everyone wants a piece of him, and there's just one journalist that's up. It's an airplane full of journalists.
Okay, journalists that they all sleep on the plane. Like I don't buy that.
No, that was only one was awake, and it was the one who like was like clearly like anglophone.
Also like funny thing
that seemed weird to me.
The scene where they pan over the journalists in the press area, all of them have like press, and then one in the corner had a Sky press pass.
Oh really? I didn't catch that. That's a good idea.
Which like they could have had like a Canal Plus press pass too, you know, but you know whatever.
Should have CBC.
But yeah. Anyways, on that note, Fred, you had anything else?
No, I have one highlight.
Another highlight?
Yeah, the garden scene with the feminines. I think it was like beautiful to see. Like all the garden scene are beautiful for me.
Yeah.
And that's was a highlight with the feminine. I think was written bastard.
Is it?
The protesters.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was written basta.
Basta.
Because that could have been.
Oh
like
shit!
enough.
Is it bastard or basta? Oh my god, Tristan, that's.
Because yeah.
What are they trying to say in that scene?
Oh, it's about abortion.
Like enough abortion or something.
Enough like.
But like he's like hallucinating that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like, are they trying to say that he cares?
No, because he's very pro-abortion. He's very against abortion.
Yeah, he's pro-life.
But why would he? Then I feel like he wouldn't even. Like,
Because
Yeah, but that's him doubting himself. I'm
in the
assuming.
last
So
two
he's doubting himself.
in the last 2 episodes, he was like directly responsible for 2 people dying. So maybe like he's starting to collect like a bit of a guilty conscience, and like now that he's gonna be responsible for like a whole bunch of people dying, and also there's all those aborted babies in like 2 of the episodes where there's just like piles of babies. Maybe it's.
And that big
It's a pro-life.
almost pro-life statement.
It's a pro-life show.
Well,
No.
so it's HBO, but it's about the Vatican. Like if the Vatican is inherently pro-life, right? So
Yeah.
you can't really get away from that fact,
What are
right?
they trying to say?
Because I think
There are so many
No, but
layers.
I think that the show does acknowledge that like abortion is like good, because in the first episode, his first speech, like the first scene of the first episode or the second scene of the first episode, he's giving a speech that is a nightmare for him. Like this is literally his nightmare, where he is saying, "Oh, we have to embrace gay marriage, and we have to celebrate divorce, and we have to allow abortion."
We have forgotten to masturbate.
We have forgotten to masturbate. He says things along that line, and then he wakes up in a sweat. And he's like, "Oh shit! Like, can't believe I would have ever dreamt of something like that." So I think the show does acknowledge, like, that is the stance of the show, because we're supposed to believe that everything he wants is bad. So I think that, like, yeah.
All right, so
wait.
you want?
I don't know if it's a low light or a highlight, but the Pope limbering up in the beginning with that guy when they were like stretching and like wrestling.
Yeah, what the hell was that?
Was that real or was that fake? I don't-
What is actually? I don't know if any scene was real. It was just like confusing to keep up. Even when at the end when he was like on the ground in like the parking lot.
Yeah.
I was like, what is this a dream? Like, what is
It's
he?
so tough to tell in this show.
It's very difficult.
Also, I don't really know if his speech, because he's not there, so it's kind of like the effect that they were trying to give, his speech in Africa, where like we're supposed to assume that like, well, I think the effect that they're trying to go for is like someone speaking down from the heavens, like God speaking to these people.
Oh yeah.
But we don't actually see him, and we don't actually see people reacting to him being there / not being there. Like everyone's kind of like looking around, but no one is reacting to the things that he's saying.
Yeah.
So like, is he even there, or is this just like a montage of the people that were there, and he actually never gave a speech? Or
But do you remember that in the plane, they're drinking?
Oh,
they're gonna
that's
say a
easy.
good speech.
So-
yeah. So like maybe that's a confirmation that actually was.
Was
a
it
speech,
like a
but-
recording, or is he speaking in a PA?
Who the
Because
fuck
he was in the desert.
I'm
too,
assuming
The next
he's
scene is
speaking in
into
the PA.
doing his weird like
It's
I'm
tough.
Jesus.
It's tough to
whatever.
tell. It's tough to tell.
Doing his weird Jesus whatever.
I don't know. He keeps going on his knees and putting his arms out. It's weird.
Yeah.
Well, that's what popes do.
And then he was in a gas station in Naples, like.
I guess this is a weird insight into what popes actually do. They chain smoke and they open up their arms. He's so dramatic. He's so dramatic. Okay, sorry.
No, go ahead.
He's just so dramatic. I just can't believe how dramatic he is.
Yeah, that's the Italian in this show. Like you could tell that this show is also one very obvious satirical element is how they're making fun of like Italian like daytime soap operas. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but they're like almost insultingly cheesy. Like I feel like they insult the intelligence of a lot of people, but people just love watching them. They're just like so overdone. And I think that this show, and they're all shot in that sort of thing where everything's like a little bit blurry, and there's like tons of like late day sunlight. Every scene seems to be like shot
my
around
God.
7 p.m. during the summer. Like
Episode
yeah.
7,
was all golden hour.
There's a scene where Voyello speaks to Spencer, which not a lot of Voyello this episode.
No, not at all.
But Voyello speaks to Spencer, and he basically just like it's all like super like golden hour lit.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're gonna have to take a break, and then we'll come back with everyone's favorite segment that's not sponsored by Cherry Coke Zero.
I'm Julian McKenzie, co-host of the Scrum Podcast, a sports show I'm doing with my podcasting partner in crime, Tristan D'Amours, on the Up.8 network. Every week, we analyze something different from the Canadian sports media landscape. Lack of diversity, getting a job in the field, coverage of different sports, and answering some of the harder questions. Through a combination of back-and-forth discussion and high-profile guest interviews, we're aiming to figure out exactly what's up in the world of sports. Find us wherever podcasts are sold: iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, SoundCloud, Message in a Bottle, Morse Code, Telegram, Singing Telegram, Target, Walgreens, Bird's Nest, Dad's Shed, and a crowded convention center bathroom.
And we're back here on episode 8. I almost forgot about that. And Cherry Coke Zero, character of the episode. Just a quick recap. It could be the main character. It could be a small character. But it needs to be your favorite character of the episode. Fred, what was your character of the episode?
The character that interests me the most was just a girl when he was talking with the guy who wrote a book of the journalist.
Yeah.
And you always see this girl who was reading the
Sophia.
Bible and it was looking around. I don't know what she means for everyone in this scene, but she was really interesting. Like, I don't know why we always see her, but that's my highlight. My
That's your character of the episode?
That's my character.
Maybe it's like foreshadowing. She's
Maybe.
gonna become
Maybe.
that character.
Maybe.
Could be.
John?
I'm caught between two. First one is Sister Antonia.
Wow. That's a bold choice.
Because she played the villain well. She died. That heart attack death scene was well acted. I don't know. She was memorable. The second person is Jennifer, the journalist in the plane.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
She had spunk. You know, she asked the tough questions and she held him accountable, or tried to. So
Absolutely.
there's nothing more I can ask from a journalist. So
Man, that's good. That's
a
good.
one, yeah. Mine is the confessional booth guy in Africa.
Yes.
The one who's like, do you speak English? But then he hands him hands him the letter. That guy doesn't actually say anything, which we have discussed is a problem. But good acting, very very well executed role, and one can argue that he was literally the most important character in this entire episode, because in handing him that letter, the Pope was then able to summon the power of God to kill Sister Antonia while she drinks her guilty water. So there you go.
Ciao, Antonia.
Ciao.
And the action he's doing is so deep. Like when he broke the glasses at the speech. I mean, it's revealing.
Oh, okay.
Is that the same guy?
Yeah.
Oh shit! It is the same guy. Oh, good
It's
idea.
I was like, why did he do that?
Okay, caught that one.
Fred with the eye skills. Holy God.
Breaking through.
My character of the episode was also going to be Jennifer the journalist because for two reasons. One, that question that was bold, and then when the Pope comes down with his veil, he exits the plane with the veil over his face. She has like the most extra reaction, like both hands open, like what the fuck's going on? Why are you doing this to us? And I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah,
and then I'll jump on the other side and say the PR person, because it's the great return of Sophia, the PR
she's
person,
great.
who didn't do anything until right now, until like that episode, and like finally gets to do her PR job.
Yeah.
And like is just like. She's like trying to be like as like understanding and diplomatic as possible with the journalist, and she's like, I'm basically the PR person for the hugest dick in the world. So could you please like just be chill with me? And
she was
and
like,
then
I have a question.
Yeah.
Just one question.
And then she was like super, and then there's one scene where she's like super insulted that like the young Pope calls her, oh, you know, it's such a problem with young people like you. And she's like, we're both the same age, man. Basically.
And there's also that look that like the Pope and Sophia give each other when, I don't know what it meant, but I don't know, it confuses me that they were smiling, but it was when they were looking at that like very weird water structure, the one that like drips only max 3 liters per day. And like they were looking at each other from across the glass or whatever it is, and they smile at each other. And I don't know why they smile at each other. Because like generally, if you see something like this, where like the most technologically advanced thing that you have, and your only solution to drink water is that you can like have 3 liters per day, you wouldn't smile, but they smile at each other.
Yeah.
Maybe because at that moment the Pope knew what his speech to these people was gonna be, but. Yeah, I thought that was really cool.
All right, we're going to need to go because someone else needs this office that we're recording in.
All right, we have to ask her a question.
Oh yeah. So after every episode, coming from the CBC's Very Stevenson, in the very first episode, do you guys think that The Young Pope is a satire?
Yes. Badly done, but yes.
Badly done, but yes, Fred?
I agree. Yes.
Yeah, you both. Okay, so both agree that.
We have to start keeping tally of this.
Keeping tabs,
Because
yeah.
like there are some people that were like outright like hell no way like
Yeah.
who's it Kelsey was like I think it was Kelsey.
Kelsey didn't think so.
David
Carl
Rudin.
Binman didn't think so. David Rudin.
And then there's some people that are like
in a very like unsurprising fashion, Lucy didn't answer the question.
yeah she kind of like went around it. And then
What
there was
is a satire?
yeah and
Yeah,
there
that was basically her answer.
yeah pretty much.
But
and then Audrey Carlton was kind of like
yeah. Fred, can't believe you were on one of my podcasts.
I'm so glad to be
very pleased. John, it's always a pleasure to have you on. Harrison, as always.
yeah.
Would you guys like to plug anything, social media, whatever?
No.
No.
Plug your restaurant.
Oh, I'm working at the Hotel Will and Gray, the banquet team. So
If
you
you're
need
if you're rich,
hungry, if you're hungry,
if you need to do parties and big parties, we're always there and we're always motivating to make good food.
that's awesome. John, you want to plug anything?
LinkedIn, eHarmony, and
Christian Ringo.
Are you on Farmers Only now?
Come on.
Yeah.
I'll let that does
Esports.
Esports are real, and yeah, that's it.
That's great. Harrison, you could follow Harrison at _re_son.
And if you add the underscore, that's my Instagram.
That's awesome.
Add me on Fortnite, GCC. We'll play.
And you have my Instagram, Le Choufleur.
Le Choufleur
Yeah.
on Instagram. It's basically Le Choufleur without the R.
There are so many good coffee pictures.
So
Follow
many.
them.
So many.
That's fantastic.
As always, so I'd like to thank Aiden Locke for having created the logo. I'd like to thank The Link for housing us and being the studio, and then I'd like to thank the Upford Network for actually housing us and being on their network. You can find all of the episodes on the website. You can find the next episode next Sunday, and as always, we'll hear you on next time.
The young coach.